An Australian lady by the name of Alex Marks recently opened a sushi restaurant, Sushi Counter, in New York City, serving Aussie-style sushi. Some people took offence to an Australian person making sushi, specifically Eric Rivera, a Seattle chef who accused Ms. Marks of cultural appropriation. But it's Australian sushi. Give me a break, coloniser. If you don't see why this is a problem, you are part of the problem. Elon Musk is here to help you. It's okay to make sushi anywhere you want, and you should all lighten up. And he also lost a ton on crypto, so please be kind and colonise wherever. Rivera has since deleted this thread, but did not address his own plans announced last year to open a Puerto Rican Japanese restaurant in North Carolina, despite him being of Puerto Rican descent, not Japanese. Here's a picture of him with a hamburger he made. Oh, hang on. Where are hamburgers originally from? The city of Hamburg in Germany. He's such a coloniser, profiting from other countries' food. Here's his Instagram with some photos of him making pasta. Where's pasta from? Oh, yeah, that's right, Italy. And even the Italians are thought to have acquired it from other cultures through Arab traders. Either way, Rivera has proven himself to be a coloniser, freely appropriating other people's cultures and profiting from it. Although at first, many of Rivera's followers gave Sushi Counter 1-star reviews, Google have since deleted those reviews, and now her little New York sushi restaurant is sitting on 5 stars. This petty attack by Rivera has given her free publicity money cannot buy. Obviously, this isn't the first case of accusations of cultural appropriation. Canadian artist Amanda P.L., who states she is of Italian descent, has used Canadian Indigenous paintings as inspiration for her artwork. Consequently, a Toronto gallery cancelled her show after complaints that her artwork bastardises Indigenous art. Chippewa Indigenous artist Jay Soul was among those criticising her. He said, "What she's doing is essentially cultural genocide because she's taking his stories and retelling them, which bastardises it down the road. Other people will see her work and they'll lose the connection between the real stories that are attached to it." Cultural genocide? Genocide, noun. The deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. I think Jay is either using words that he doesn't know the meaning of, or he's intentionally trying to mislead people. I think the actions of these people who claim cultural appropriation are completely misguided. In the long run, they only serve to shut Indigenous art off from the natural interactions of creative inspiration and expression that has unified different peoples since the dawn of time. It's these interactions that allow culture and humanity to evolve. Claiming that only one group of people, based entirely off their ancestry, have the sole right to a certain type of art is just absurd in my opinion. In the same vein, one of my son's classmates, a young girl, started painting an Australian Aboriginal dot painting, but she was soon scolded by the teacher, a non-Indigenous lady, who took it upon herself to say that only Aboriginal children can do dot paintings, which my son thought was ridiculous, and she ended up making the little girl cry. Noting that dot painting only has a fairly short history, in 1971, Jeffrey Barden was assigned as the art teacher for the children of the Aboriginal people in Papunya near Alice Springs. He noticed that the Aboriginal men would draw symbols in the sand when telling their stories, so encouraged his students to paint a mural based on these traditional stories on the school walls, as well as onto canvas and board. Soon many of the men began painting as well. Student union officials at the University of East Anglia banned a Mexican restaurant from handing out sombreros to students because for anyone other than a Mexican, wearing a sombrero amounted to cultural appropriation. The distinctive straw hats were handed out to students by Pedro's Tex-Mex Cantina, offering margaritas, jugs of sangria, and shots of tequila. When its staff began handing out sombreros, the student union officials pounced. In 2018, English girl group Little Mix singer Jessie Nelson posted a picture to Instagram of herself wearing her hair in dreadlocks. Nelson was accused of cultural appropriation and told to apologise. Apparently, only people of a certain ancestry are allowed to wear dreadlocks now. Whatever happened to equality? Shouldn't people be allowed to wear their hair how they choose? For 30 years, Dr. Hibbert from The Simpsons was voiced by Harry Shearer, But in 2021, the producers decided that the voice actor's real ancestry had to match Dr. Hibbert's fictional ancestry, to appease Black Lives Matter or whatever. So they changed the voice actor to Kevin Michael Richardson. The same thing happened to all the other non-white, non-yellow characters. It's strange, you can't be discriminated against and denied a job based on the colour of your skin, gender or sexual orientation, but you can't be given an audition or a job to play a character that doesn't match the colour of your skin, gender or sexual orientation. Harry Shearer found the whole thing ridiculous and said, "I have a very simple belief about acting. The job of the actor is to play someone who they're not." Isn't that the truth? It's funny, these new voice actors had to mimic the voices of the old characters in order to not get all the fans upset. So basically, we have a black guy mimicking a white guy playing a black doctor. It's just absurd when you think about it. Food, art, fashion, hairstyles, is it all off limits now unless you can prove you match the correct ethnicity? This is bonkers. Yes, I get very angry now when I see Gordon Ramsay cooking a curry or a pasta dish. How dare he cook anything but porridge or haggis? All those white people learning Spanish or Chinese, or those who enjoy watching Bruce Lee movies, how dare they participate in something that's not their own culture? Let's take this madness to its logical conclusion: segregation. Only Japanese can eat at Japanese restaurants, only Mexicans can eat at Mexican restaurants. The first modern-day automobile was invented in Germany by Carl Benz in 1886, so obviously only Germans should be allowed to drive cars now. Learning a new language? That's cultural appropriation. Only Koreans should be allowed to speak Korean, and only people from England can learn English. And now nobody can communicate with one another anymore. Let's go back to the Stone Age. Eating sandwiches? Well, that was invented by John Montagu, 4th Earl of Sandwich, an 18th century English aristocrat. So unless you're English, you're a racist. Obviously, you can't practice karate or jujutsu unless you're Japanese. Only Chinese farmers can farm bok choy or rice, and only traditional farmers in Mexico can farm corn. Only white people are allowed to listen to or go to a Taylor Swift concert, and only black people can enjoy Jay-Z. Authors or scriptwriters can only create characters that have their same characteristics. J.K. Rowling can now only create characters that are female, heterosexual, British authors. Everything else is off limits. Harry Potter would never have got created because only white 11-year-old British boys would be allowed to write it. This whole notion of cultural appropriation is just a fool's errand and a backward step in my opinion. It's the opposite of equality. Actually, it's not even based in reality. It's very much a modern, Western, liberal view of the world. I've travelled and lived in other countries, and every country I visited enjoyed foreigners participating in their cultural practices. Of course they did. When I lived in Japan, us Australians were asked by our Japanese hosts to dress up in traditional Japanese clothing, and of course we obliged. They loved the fact we participated in their culture. In China, the locals loved to teach foreigners how to make dumplings and other Chinese food. It was a very proud thing for them. Of course it was. Everyone loves to promote and spread their own culture. American actress Scarlett Johansson starred in the 2017 movie Ghost in the Shell, where she played the Japanese character Motoko. Of course, this angered many Western liberals who demanded that she be recast, but in actual fact, Japanese fans didn't care, with many having warm feelings about Scarlett Johansson starring in the film, and were happy that Japanese stories were being sent around the world. Personally, I think participating in other people's cultures is a great thing. We open up the world instead of shutting it out. Sharing each other's cultures brings us closer together. It promotes unity and togetherness. Unfortunately, these people who are constantly crying racism and accusing people of cultural appropriation are probably the most racist people of all. All they constantly seem to do is categorise people into racial and ethnic groups. I think that probably they are very unhappy people. They're certainly not interested in unity and togetherness, quite the opposite. They're more interested in hatred and division.